Cassie says Sean would want it put on his body in the next room. Oh, wait a minute. Oh my. What? Put it on him? Talk about the semen? You talking about the semen? Go ahead and talk about this Diddy trial, bro. Uh-oh. Yeah, man. It is day 2, 3. What day is it? Anyways, Diddy trial day 2 or 3 update. And you know, if you don't know what happened on the first day, or whatever technically what day you want to call it, the male escort was on trial. I mean, they called him to the stand, and basically he was like, yeah, Cassie told me to piss in her mouth, basically. I'm like, Jesus Christ, bro. Jesus Christ. You know, Brian Steele is the defense attorney for P. Diddy. If you don't know who Brian Steele is the guy that got Young Thug out of jail. He was even mad that Young Thug wanted to do a plea deal. He knew he can beat that trial. He's undefeated in the lawyer game, bro. He's undefeated. So shout out to Brian Steele. So that was yesterday. That's just the context of the dramatics of what happened yesterday. So today, Cassie actually took the stand. People didn't think she was gonna actually show up, but she actually showed up. Cassie actually showed up, pregnant and all, baby daddy and everything. Showed up. And it got real hectic, bro. It got real hectic. I heard some details. I was actually researching through the whole day. You know what I'm saying? I'm hearing that P. Diddy putting semen on his nipples, bro. I should have made another video effect for that. You know, when Bernie Mac be like, you nasty bitch. Should have made that. I didn't have time because I was rushing on the stream, trying to, you know. But anyway, I done heard that she actually said that she was willing to do all of this stuff. She said, they asked her, what was the longest freak off y'all had? And this heifer gonna say 4 days. 4 days. That's sad as hell, bro. You lucky to get 4 minutes out of me. I'm not even gonna cap. You lucky to get 4 minutes out of me. But they're just some of the details. I heard. So let's actually see what ABC News actually had to say about the trial.
And racketeering trial of Sean Diddy Combs. Star witness Cassie Ventura taking the stand today in a New York courtroom in the sex trafficking and racketeering trial of Sean Diddy Combs. This trial's marked the first time Ventura and Combs are seeing one another in person since their 2018 split. Federal prosecutors claim Combs used lies, drugs, threats, and violence to coerce his ex-girlfriend into sexual encounters with male prostitutes. Ventura said the alleged sexual encounters typically lasted between 36 to 72 hours, the longest one lasting 4 days. Ventura is currently married.
What I tell y'all, man? What I tell y'all? I told y'all, bro. Told y'all this nigga's a freak. Plies even said on his IG, he said, I thought I was freaking, man.
Married and pregnant with her 3rd child. She told the jury today about how the hip-hop mogul controlled her life and their relationship, describing the alleged physical abuse, saying, quote, He would bash my head, knock me over, drag me, kick me, stomp me in the head when I was down. Combs has pleaded not guilty to all 5 charges he's facing, including racketeering conspiracy, sex trafficking by force, and transportation to engage in prostitution. A warning for our viewers, this story may contain accounts, descriptions, visual.
So my whole thing is, if he, let's rewind it. See, let's hear all the charges this nigga is actually, charged with.
Engage in prostitution. A warning.
Hold on,
Combs has pleaded not guilty to all 5 charges he's facing, including racketeering conspiracy, sex trafficking by force, and transportation to engage in prostitution.
Okay, so what does that actually got to do with Cassie? Huh? Let's just go down the line. Racketeering. Okay, racketeering. Like, what that got to do with anything? The prostitution might have something to do with it. I can see that. But sex trafficking, they actually trying to say that just based off of him flying people in to have sex is sex trafficking. That's insane, bro.
Stop the cap. Stop the cap.
That's insane, bro.
A warning for our viewers, this story may contain accounts, descriptions, visual content of actual or alleged events that some viewers may find disturbing. So for more now, let's bring in ABC's Rena Roy live from outside the courtroom, along with ABC News legal contributor and trial attorney Brian Buckmeyer. Rena, we will begin with you. Cassie Ventura, of course, on the stand most of the day. She's talking in graphic detail at times about her participation in these freak-offs. So what did we learn so far today?
Yeah, Trevor, very graphic indeed. I can tell you that I got a chance to listen to her testimony inside court here behind us, and she was emotional. She broke down into tears at one point when she talked about participating in those freak-offs. She says that she was just 22 years old, had just turned 22 when Combs first proposed to her those drug-fueled sex marathons with escorts. She says eventually, though, they became almost weekly, and that they lasted on average, as you said, about 2 to 3 days, the longest one 4 days, and that she stayed awake by drugs that she says Combs gave to her, including ecstasy, cocaine, and Molly. She testified that those freak-offs made her feel dirty and worthless, but that she felt like she did not have a choice but to participate because she says Combs would become violent with her. As you pointed out, she says that he would bash her in the head, kick and drag her, and that she didn't know what would happen if she didn't do what he wanted her to do. She told the jury that she tried to express her feelings about participating, but in at least one text message shown to the jury, Combs told her to make it happen anyway. Trevor?
Brian, given how emotional and explicit all this testimony is, what kind of strategy do you think we might see from the defense attorneys in cross-examination?
So I think the defense is going to try to move away from the emotion and some of the more explicit terminology that we're seeing in this case and try to go for a much more logical argument that they're making, that Sean Combs participated in domestic violence, allegations that would rightfully so be attributed to state charges, but that there was no racketeering conspiracy. There was no sex trafficking. It was domestic violence for domestic violence sake.
See, and I just said that. Like, don't none of this relates to any of the other charges to Cassie. Y'all making it like this man is a super supreme kingpin when he's not. He's not. I mean, yeah, it's Diddy. Of course he got billions of dollars. Of course he acts flamboyant. Of course he thinks he rules the world. But all he is a freaky nigga. All he is a freaky ass nigga, bro. That's all. He just likes to get down. It ain't like he was murdering anybody. I mean, he might have tried to shoot somebody in a club. He might have tried to blow up Kid Cudi's car. But what rap artists in the game haven't done that? Who hasn't done that? Gucci Mane that took a life, the baby that took a life. Like, what do y'all mean, bro? What do y'all mean, bro?
Based on jealousy, infidelity, and just anger. And so I think that's the angle they're going to take. But some of the testimony, as Rena pointed out, and just how Cassie is on the stand, that's going to be a very hard argument to distinguish between the different types of force and how they were used.
So, Rena, Diddy is there in court. He's watching all this testimony from his ex-girlfriend. There's also many of his own family members there. Did we see any kind of reaction from Diddy today?
Right, for the most part, he appears to be pretty focused on Cassie Ventura, his ex-girlfriend. He is listening intently. At one point, we saw him scribble down some notes and speak to his attorney, but other times he appears to be more passive with his hands in his lap at the defense table with not really a certain kind of expression on his face. She, on the other hand, has not appeared to look at him once since she took the stand. She has looked at her husband, who is inside court, to support her. Remember, this is the first time that Combs and Ventura are seeing each other face to face since 2018, so you can imagine how this might feel for both of them.
Brian, how do you imagine this might land with the jury hearing all of this extensive testimony of this nature?
So I think at this point with direct examination, without anyone coming up and crossing Cassie, I think the jury is looking at Sean Combs, and I was in court this morning to see some of those looks with disgust, with disdain, to think about how one individual can do this to another in this way. And so I think it's going to be a high hill or even a mountain for the defense to kind of walk this case to the jury to suggest that, yes, Sean Combs, as Tenny Garrigo said in opening statements, has done some indefensible things, but it's a matter of what he's being charged with and what he did. A very difficult distinction, because I think earlier on in her testimony, it seemed much more about domestic violence. Now we're starting to see the allegations and some of the facts that bleed into that sex trafficking by force, fraud, and coercion, and that enterprise, that criminal enterprise that the government alleged is surrounding Sean Combs' inner circle. Because when she looked at some of those photos of the security guards, the chief of staff, at least for me as I sat in that courtroom, I could hear the tone of her voice change. I can see her body language change, and you can see that she had some very particular feelings of maybe even fear in describing some of these individuals, and I think that's really proven the case for the government.
Okay, so now I kind of get what they're going with that. Basically, the staff up under Diddy actually condoned what he was doing, and they trying to say that was like a whole a whole criminal organization just because they worked up under Diddy and they condoned it. And the whole sex trafficking thing, I mean, I understand through Cassie's eyes, whatever, and the story she said, I understand that. I understand that. But 7 years, bro. 7 years.
For a nigga.
Appreciate that, Roshonda.
You wondering why you ain't made it to the top and ain't got no motion because you won't lock in.
I appreciate that, Roshonda, for that subscription. But like Cassie, you've been there for 7 years. 7 years. I don't care how long you've been getting beat on. You chose to be there. You chose to be there, Cassie. I'm sorry. And as a woman, you can argue with me. You can argue with me. You can say, but he forced her to stay there. Man, the 7 years is a choice. Like, I'm sorry. 7 years is a freaking choice, bro. 7 years is a choice. So let's actually read the transcripts. Shout out to Inner City Press. Basically, they start off saying the government causing Cassandra Ventura, which is Cassie. She took the stand and she's extremely pregnant. Now, why did they put extremely pregnant? Like she's a dog or something. Like she's extremely pregnant. She's they asked her, how old are you? She said 38. What is your work? Musician, entertainer. Now, I'm gonna stop you right there. Stop the cap.
Stop the cap. Stop the cap. Stop the cap.
You ain't made an album since 2006, Cassie, that I know of. You haven't made an album. You got one hit song. Shout out to Diddy. You got one hit song. I mean, come on now. You gonna say you an entertainer? Like, respectably, I can understand why you want to call yourself an entertainer. Respectfully. But you ain't put out no work. You ain't put out no entertainment value whatsoever. You haven't even did no television shows or nothing like that. Nothing. Let's read on. They said the prosecution says, how long was you with Sean? She said 10 years. Then what did it say? Say, I brought it up gently. I didn't want him to just do it with someone else. The defense says objection leading. Judge say rephrase. Why would you talk to him gently? I didn't want him to be angry. Diddy. I don't know if y'all can see that on y'all. It said, what did you write? Cassie says, really need to fuck. Okay. A prosecution says, why did you write that? Cassie says, because I wanted to be with him. I read your messages. You read yours. You don't want to do any more? I'm so predictable. What do you think this means? Cassie says that he knew I didn't want to do the freak offs anymore. But then backpedaled. Why, Cassie? To make him angry. He could be violent. Where's your outfit? Pleasure chest elsewhere. What? What is y'all talking about? What are y'all talking about? Uh-oh. Alright, let's say it says 4:15 Cassie Ventura is back, jury is back. The judge said you may continue. The prosecution says when drugs ran out, how did you know who to reach out to? Cassie said Sean would tell me. The prosecution says during the session, how would you know to move to the next step? Prosecution says Sean. Prosecution says, what would happen after the escort finished on you? Cassie says Sean would want it put on his body in the next room. Oh, wait a minute. Oh my. What? Put it on him? Talk about the semen? You talking about the semen? The prosecution says, did you do that? I did. Prosecution says, where? Cassie said, usually on his nipples. The prosecution says, did you want to do that? Cassie says, no. Then why did you do it? Because you were scared. Cassie. Cassie said, look, I put the semen on his chest, his nipples. Because I was scared he was going to hurt me. Man, look, save it. And let me remind you, her husband left the courtroom around this time when they were saying all of this. He left the courtroom when he said all this. The prosecution says, what applies for freak-offs? Cassie says, Astroglide, baby oil, and condoms. Condoms. Prosecution says, who brought the supplies? Cassie says, security, Sean's assistants. The prosecution says, which brand of baby oil? Like that really matters. Like which brand of baby oil? Cassie said Johnson's & Johnson's. You can't go wrong with Johnson's & Johnson's. That's the top tier baby oil, baby. The prosecution says, how was it used? Cassie said, Sean said, you need to be glistening. Golly, did he? Golly. Did he? He said you need to be glistening. Like, look, that glisten on that behind, man, I'm telling you, that's all I got to say. The glisten. The prosecution says, were there freak outs where you ran out of baby oil? The defense said, objection, Your Honor. This is irrelevant. The prosecution says, you also mentioned Astroglide. The defense says, same objection. Judge says, sidebar. And that is it with academics posted. But that was basically the sums up day one. Cassie basically said she likes rubbing semen on P. Diddy's chest and nipples and all of that. And it was kind of wild. So I would assume tomorrow or today, whatever you're watching this video, that the defense is gonna cross-examine Cassie that day. So they're going pretty fast through this. Pretty fast through this whole trial. Shout out to the prosecution and everybody. Shout out. They going pretty fast on this trial. So shout out to them.